Wednesdays, after the news at 1:30, one of the professional planners at Dan White & Associates, that specialize in retirement income planning, calls in with a great tip, some advice. Well, today, the Phils take on the Marlins, and that's why Andrew Wood is on right now, because we didn't want to miss this important topic. So, Andrew, Rick, how are you, sir?
Hey, Rick, thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. What can we learn from you guys today?
I wanted to give a little bit of an update on Social Security. There was something that was released just last week that might be alarming to some people. But I want to go through what's called, it's a new piece of legislation, hasn't been passed yet, but it's called the Strengthening Social Security Act. And what it's designed to do and how it's really going to impact people. So, yeah. Did you hear the news last week?
Social Security's 2032 deadline puts a 22% cut on the table, and Washington's got a lot less room to negotiate than back in 1983. That story?
Well, yeah. Well, so they were projected 2033. They'll have, with no changes.
Yeah.
They'll have to reduce benefits. Well, that just got bumped up. It says 2032. From what I'm reading, they bumped it up a quarter. So a quarter earlier than expected. So that would be a bad thing if nothing is done, because they'll have to cut payments a little bit sooner than projected.
Oh yeah, they're saying that the trust fund is going to be depleted by 2032, and that way they can only pay about 78% of the benefits that have been promised to people. And for the 1 in 5 of all Americans who get Social Security, that means that Congress has to do something, and it looks like it's to be more challenging now than it was years ago when they fixed it. Well, temporarily fixed it.
No, you're spot on, and they've been talking about different things. Again, we don't know what's going to change, but I think something does need to change, and they know that. But I'll give you for an example. For 2026, the taxable wage cap in which you pay Social Security taxes is on your first $184,500. Now, with this proposal, or with this piece of legislation, basically what they're saying is they want to phase that out entirely over time.
Yeah.
And basically what they're saying is for earnings above that wage base, there's going to be an exclusion beginning in 2028, which is 80%. So if your income is above that number, 80% of your income above that number is going to be excluded. 2029 is 60%, 2030 is 40%. 2031 20%, and then 2032 and after, basically all earnings above that cap. Basically, there is no cap, so it'll be eliminated, and then all earnings will be subject to that Social Security Act. So that's one of those things where, there's going to be. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's one of those things that they are discussing. We've heard about them stopping it at 200,000 and then pausing it, and then if you're any income over 400,000, them going after that. So this is just another, piece of legislation on the table.
Well, this is when they have to calculate how many people are, how many people they think will be on the Social Security, and at what age, and they look at the. It's basically actuarial studies is what it is, and you know what that means. So they have to do that sort of thing and have an estimate. I've often thought, and I remember years ago there was calculations saying, if you actually just eliminate that income cap, and if they actually have some sort of lockbox, that could fix the problem. I don't know if it would or not now, though.
So here's the thing, Rick. So they have thresholds to begin with now, and basically your higher wage earners, they include less of their wage base when they're calculating the overall benefit when they're actually going to receive it. But my question really, if I follow up on this, and there isn't anything in there, it's something they're going to have to walk through, or hopefully they're discussing. But so if you're just paying Social Security wage taxes on all of your income, are you not going to benefit from that at all? You know what I mean? Like if you're getting taxed more and more of your income, does that mean your Social Security is going to go up even fractionally in the future? Again, I don't have an answer for that, but that would be a concern, right? I mean, I know, your higher wage earners and you're ultra wealthy, they're not as dependent on Social Security, but at the same time, my concern is that taxation without any benefit, any representation. So, yeah, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with that. The other thing is, so we're hearing these inflation news, and it's the top concern on retirees right now, and has been for the last couple of years here, is inflation. The other thing they're looking at is using a different CPI model. So currently they're using what's called the CPW, which is a consumer price index for, they're using the consumer price index for urban wage earners and clerical workers.
Okay.
And basically what they want to do is they want to move it over to a consumer price index for the elderly. And it's intended to better reflect retiree expenses, especially healthcare and housing, which for a lot of people that will make up the bulk of their.
Okay, so that would probably increase the consumer price index for that demographic. In other words, it would probably be more money that they have to get, meaning that what Congress would do. Well, first of all, is that theory correct? That it would actually increase the percentage of increases of Social Security benefits using that particular number?
That's a really good question, and I don't know if they have an answer for that either. I mean, I can tell you, obviously, that's a huge concern is, for those things in particular, healthcare and housing. But and I see it too, where the older people get, a lot of times some of their, we'll call it fun expenses, do end up being reduced just naturally because of lifestyle changes, things like that. So it would be interesting to see a study like what is the impact there? How much of a difference is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, this is what they've done in the past. Is they raised the mandatory the mandatory retirement age, and then they raised the age at which you can take out the maximum. They might increase the amount of money you got to pay in, and then they just increase or eliminate the wage cap for putting into Social Security. And it's interesting that they would it would run it up to 200, and then between 200 and 400 they go, oh, okay, you're good. But then after 400 they'd be paying in again. That's I want to see the actuarial breakout on that. I want to see what are the numbers that they're crunching, because they also have to consider how many people are going to be dying over the next 10 years or so. And by the way, this is 2032. This is only 6 years from now, right?
Yeah, you're not kidding. We're getting close.
I know.
They've kicked the can down the road pretty far. See how far they can.
No. It's like they kicked the can down the road, but the road's on a hill and the can's rolling back.
Right.
Yes, it's rolling back at it. So they have to do the typical things. I think changing the consumer price index per demographic would be kind of an interesting thing. But again, what are they going to say? Like, the CPI for people who are working in urban environments, that number's higher than, say, for people who are retirees. So it could go either way. And if it goes that way, that means, we just don't give you as much of an increase as we would have if we used the other demographic. Or maybe it's more, but I doubt it's more.
I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see.
You deal in the hard facts. I understand.
The third thing, and this actually leads into Dan's show on Sunday, which is Social Security benefits often overlooked for survivors and ex-spouses. So this is part of this bill where they're looking to potentially increase Social Security survivor benefits, widows benefits, widowers benefits, and surviving divorced spouses benefits. So currently, typically what happens is the surviving spouse, they don't get two checks, they get the higher of the two. But depending on their age, it can be reduced. Now, that said, and this is actually really interesting, and I think it would help a lot of people. If you look at any statistics and studies, the people who suffer the most in retirement are typically the widows and widowers. And what they're basically looking at is, well, if both spouses had eligibility, meaning they both qualified for Social Security benefit, they would potentially bump up that survivor benefit to 75% of the sum
Oh, okay.
of the total that
Yeah.
they were receiving.
That'd be good.
I don't think that's going to help with the solvency issue, but I think it will help those people.
No, it adds to the solvency problem. Yeah, but for individuals, that's a good thing.
So here's an example for you, though. So I just use, let's say, benefit. One spouse is getting $3,000, the other spouse is getting $2,000. That's $5,000 a month. Now, typically, what would happen is, one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse continues that the higher benefit. Well, now it would be 75% of $5,000, which is $3,750. So it's an extra $750 a month for that person.
That makes a big difference.
Again, I think that'll be a tremendous help for a lot of these widows and widowers. Again, I don't think that helps with the solvency issue, but I thought it was interesting. It was the first time I saw that, and I actually really like that idea. But that might be means tested too, so we'll see.
Well, it would have to be. All right, Andrew Wood, Dan White & Associates, financial planners specializing in retirement income. And he just mentioned something that Dan's going to be talking about on Sunday here at 7 a.m., 11:50 a.m., and 101.7 FM, streaming live at WDEL.com. Andrew, have a great day, and thank you very much.
You too. Thanks, Rick. Go Phil.